Picture this: you're walking through a sun-baked desert, your boots kicking up dust as the wind whispers secrets of the past. Suddenly, your foot strikes something hard. Brushing away the sand, your fingers trace the edges of an object no human has touched for thousands of years. What you've just uncovered isn't just a relic, it's a key to a door long thought locked forever. This is the thrill of discovery, the moment when the past reaches out and shakes the present. And it's happened more times than you might think. Across the globe, hidden beneath layers of earth and time, lie objects so extraordinary, so utterly unexpected, that their very existence forces us to rewrite history. These aren't just artifacts, they're messages from civilizations that never intended for us to find them. Some of these discoveries were accidents: a farmer's plow hitting stone, a child chasing a goat into a cave. Others were the result of relentless curiosity, of explorers refusing to believe the past had given up all its secrets. But every single one of these 22 objects has one thing in common: they were never meant to be found. And yet, here they are, staring back at us across the centuries, challenging everything we thought we knew. Take, for example, a tiny clay tablet covered in symbols that turned out to be the world's oldest known complaint letter. Or an intricate bronze device, so advanced it was dubbed the world's first computer 2,000 years before the modern era. Why were these objects hidden? What were their creators trying to protect, or perhaps to protect us from? This journey isn't just about unearthing treasures. It's about the stories they tell, the civilizations that vanished, the knowledge that was nearly lost forever. These relics don't just belong to archaeologists or historians, they belong to all of us. They're proof that history isn't a static record but a living, breathing puzzle, with pieces still waiting to be found. So let's dig in, not with shovels but with curiosity, because what you're about to see isn't just a list of ancient objects. It's a series of revelations, each one peeling back another layer of time to show us a world far more mysterious, far more brilliant than we ever imagined. Ready to have your understanding of the past turned upside down? Let's begin. The Antikythera Mechanism isn't just an artifact, it's a time capsule of genius. Discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in the early 20th century, this bronze and wood device was so advanced that historians initially dismissed it as out of place, like finding a smartphone in the Middle Ages. But when researchers painstakingly reconstructed its fragments, they uncovered a labyrinth of interlocking gears, each one precisely calibrated to track the movements of the sun, moon, and planets. This wasn't just a tool, it was a celestial calculator capable of predicting eclipses decades in advance and even accounting for the irregular orbit of the moon. What's truly staggering is that nothing like it appears again in the historical record for over 1,000 years. The knowledge required to build such a device, understanding of planetary motion, mastery of metallurgy, the mathematics to design miniature gear systems simply vanished. Was it the result of war, a lost library, or a secret guarded by a select few? We may never know, but the Antikythera Mechanism forces us to confront a humbling truth. Ancient civilizations may have reached heights of innovation we're only now beginning to recognize. And then there's the mystery of its purpose. Some believe it was used by sailors for navigation. Others think it was a teaching tool for philosophers, or even a kind of sacred oracle, revealing the will of the gods written in the stars. What's certain is that its creators saw the universe as a grand, interconnected machine, an idea that wouldn't resurface until the scientific revolution 2 millennia later. This device doesn't just rewrite history, it shatters our assumptions about the timeline of human progress. If something this sophisticated existed over 2,000 years ago, what else might have been lost to time? The Antikythera Mechanism is a reminder that the past isn't a linear march from primitive to advanced. It's a tapestry of brilliance, forgotten and rediscovered, waiting for the right moment to speak to us again. The Baghdad Battery is the kind of discovery that makes historians pause mid-sentence. Found in the ruins of a 2,000-year-old Mesopotamian village, this unassuming clay jar about the size of a fist holds a copper cylinder and an iron rod, all sealed with bitumen. At first glance, it looks like an ancient storage container, but when scientists realized the components could produce an electric current when filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar, the questions started piling up. Was this really a primitive battery? And if so, what on earth were they powering? The implications are staggering. If this interpretation is correct, it means humans were experimenting with electricity a millennium and a half before Galvani's famous frog leg experiments in the 18th century. Some researchers suggest these batteries might have been used for electroplating, coating objects with thin layers of gold or silver, a technique seen in artifacts from the same era. Others propose more speculative uses, like medical treatments or even religious rituals, where a faint electric shock could have been interpreted as divine contact. Of course, not everyone's convinced. Skeptics argue the jars might have simply been used for storing scrolls, with the metal components acting as protective casings. Without written records or additional examples, the mystery lingers. But here's what's fascinating. Even if it wasn't a battery, the fact that it could function as one reveals how advanced ancient metallurgy and chemistry truly were. The Baghdad Battery forces us to ask, how many other inventions have we misunderstood because we assumed earlier civilizations weren't capable of such innovation? This artifact is a wake-up call. It reminds us that history isn't a straight line from primitive to advanced. It's full of loops, dead ends, and bursts of brilliance that flicker out, only to be rediscovered centuries later. And if something as mundane as a clay jar can upend our assumptions, what else is still hidden, waiting to rewrite the story of human ingenuity? Now, imagine holding a slab of stone covered in symbols so enigmatic that for centuries, no one could even agree if they were writing or decoration. Our next discovery isn't just an object, it's a riddle carved in stone, a language so thoroughly lost that cracking its code would mean hearing voices silenced for millennia. The Rosetta Stone is more than just a rock, it's a bridge across time. When French soldiers stumbled upon it in 1799 during Napoleon's campaign in Egypt, they had no idea they were holding the solution to a puzzle that had baffled scholars for centuries. This unassuming slab of black basalt, inscribed with the same decree in 3 scripts, Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphs, became the Rosetta Stone of language itself, the key that finally unlocked the secrets of ancient Egypt. For over 1,000 years, hieroglyphs had been silent, their meanings lost, their stories trapped behind a wall of symbols no one could read. But this stone changed everything. What makes the Rosetta Stone so extraordinary isn't just its inscriptions, it's the story of how one man, Jean-François Champollion, spent decades wrestling with its code. He wasn't just deciphering a language, he was resurrecting a civilization. Imagine the moment he realized that the oval rings enclosing certain hieroglyphs, cartouches, spelled out the names of pharaohs, names that hadn't been spoken aloud in millennia. Suddenly, the voices of the dead returned. Kings, priests, merchants, their words, laws, and daily lives were no longer mysteries. The Rosetta Stone didn't just translate text, it reopened a door the ancient world had deliberately closed. But here's the chilling part. Hieroglyphs weren't just forgotten, they were meant to be forgotten. By the time the Roman Empire took control of Egypt, the knowledge of how to read and write them was restricted to a tiny elite, a dying class of priests guarding sacred secrets. When Christianity swept through Egypt, temples were abandoned, and the last scribes who understood the old script took their knowledge to the grave. The Rosetta Stone, buried and lost for centuries, was never supposed to resurface. Its rediscovery wasn't just lucky, it was an act of defiance against time itself. And yet the stone raises an unsettling question. If something as vital as written language could be erased so completely, what other truths have been deliberately buried? The next object we'll examine doesn't just hint at lost knowledge. It suggests some secrets were hidden for a reason, locked away not by accident but by design. The Dead Sea Scrolls are more than just ancient manuscripts. They're a time capsule of faith, rebellion, and secrets someone desperately wanted to bury. Hidden in clay jars within the cliffs of Qumran, these fragile parchments survived 2,000 years of scorching heat and shifting sands, only to be discovered by a Bedouin shepherd chasing a stray goat in 1947. What he stumbled upon would shake the foundations of religious scholarship. Over 900 texts, including the oldest known copies of the Hebrew Bible, apocalyptic prophecies, and radical interpretations of scripture that didn't make it into modern religious texts. But here's what's truly startling. These weren't just sacred texts tucked away for safekeeping. The way they were hidden, the meticulous sealing of jars, the choice of remote caves, all suggest something far more urgent. These scrolls were meant to disappear. Scholars believe they may have been hidden by the Essenes, a reclusive Jewish sect preparing for an impending apocalyptic battle. Others argue they were smuggled out of Jerusalem ahead of the Roman siege in 70 AD, a last-ditch effort to preserve knowledge before the temple was destroyed. Either way, the message is clear. These words were considered dangerous. The controversy doesn't end there. Some passages challenge long-held beliefs, like a version of the Ten Commandments that includes an extra, forgotten commandment. Others describe rituals and prophecies so unconventional that modern religious authorities initially hesitated to release them to the public. It's as if the scrolls hold a parallel version of history, one that might have rewritten faith itself had it not been lost for millennia. Yet the greatest mystery isn't just what the scrolls say, but why they survived at all. Unlike the Rosetta Stone, which was meant to be seen, these texts were deliberately concealed, their authors perhaps fearing persecution or destruction. Their rediscovery forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. History isn't just written by the winners, it's also shaped by what the powerful tried to erase. And now, against all odds, these silenced voices are speaking again. Which makes you wonder, if a single shepherd's accident could unearth such transformative truths, what other revelations still lie buried, waiting for the right moment to resurface? The Phaistos Disc isn't just an artifact, it's a taunt from history, a circle of clay that laughs in the face of every linguist who's tried to crack its code. Found in 1908 in the ruins of a Minoan palace on Crete, this palm-sized disc is stamped on both sides with 45 distinct symbols, spiraling inward like a snake eating its own tail. Animals, plants, human figures, each icon precise, deliberate, and utterly mysterious. Here's the kicker: not a single one of these symbols appears anywhere else in the ancient world. It's as if someone invented an entire language just to write this one message, then buried it where no one would ever find it. What makes the Phaistos Disc so maddening isn't just its undeciphered script, it's the way it was made. Unlike inscriptions carved or painted, these symbols were pressed into wet clay with individual stamps, a technique so advanced for its time that some call it the first example of movable type, predating Gutenberg's printing press by 3,000 years. Why would a civilization capable of such innovation leave behind no other traces of this technology? Was it a sacred object, a royal decree, or something far stranger? Theories range from plausible to downright fantastical. Some scholars believe it's a hymn or a calendar, while others argue it's a diplomatic treaty or even a board game. Then there are the wilder guesses that it's a message from Atlantis, or worse, an extraterrestrial artifact. But here's the chilling part. The disc was discovered buried beneath the floor of a temple, deliberately hidden, as if its creators wanted it to survive but never be understood. And that's the real puzzle. Most ancient texts were meant to be read: inscriptions on tombs, laws on tablets, even curses on amulets. But the Phaistos Disc feels different. It's not a record, it's a riddle without an answer key. Perhaps that was the point. Maybe some truths weren't meant for everyone. Or maybe, just maybe, we haven't found the Rosetta Stone that'll crack it open yet. One thing's certain: if a simple clay disc can defy explanation for over a century, what other secrets are waiting beneath our feet, whispering in languages we've forgotten how to hear? The next discovery doesn't just challenge history, it defies the very laws of nature, proving that sometimes reality is stranger than the wildest fiction. The Voynich Manuscript doesn't just resist translation, it mocks it. This bizarre, palm-sized book, carbon dated to the early 15th century, is filled with looping, alien script and illustrations that defy logic. Plants that don't exist, nude women bathing in emerald green tubes, and celestial charts mapping stars no telescope could have seen at the time. Discovered in 1912 by a Polish book dealer, it's become the ultimate puzzle for cryptographers, historians, and even artificial intelligence. But here's the twist: after centuries of analysis, not a single word of its 240 pages has been definitively decoded. What makes the Voynich Manuscript so unnerving isn't just its unreadable text, it's the precision behind the chaos. Statistical analysis reveals patterns consistent with a real language, not random gibberish. The script flows with grammatical structure, repeating symbols in ways that suggest nouns, verbs, even poetic meter. And then there's the art, hundreds of detailed illustrations, from medicinal herbs with impossible roots to zodiac wheels featuring unknown constellations. This wasn't scribbled by a madman, it was crafted by someone with intent. But what intent? The theories range from scholarly to spine-chilling. Some argue it's a lost herbal encyclopedia, its plants encrypted to protect medicinal secrets. Others believe it's a sophisticated hoax designed to deceive Renaissance collectors, but the most unsettling possibility, that it's a remnant of a forgotten esoteric tradition, encoding knowledge considered too dangerous to share openly. After all, the 15th century was an era of witch hunts and heresy trials. What if this book was hidden because its contents could get someone burned at the stake? And then there's the ink. Recent studies revealed something startling. The pigments match recipes from Central Europe, but the vellum comes from Italy. This wasn't just a local oddity, it was an object that traveled, passed hand to hand, its origins deliberately obscured. The Voynich Manuscript isn't merely a mystery, it's a mirror. The harder we stare, the more it reflects our own obsession with solving, with categorizing, with demanding that history surrender all its secrets. But some doors are meant to stay locked. Now consider an artifact that flips the script entirely, not a hidden text, but a silent witness to connections between civilizations that shouldn't have existed. A tiny figurine buried in the Americas, with features that unmistakably point across the ocean to a land its creators supposedly never knew. The Olmec colossal heads aren't just sculptures, they're a silent confrontation with history itself. Carved from single blocks of volcanic basalt, some weighing over 20 tons, these towering faces gaze out from the jungles of Mexico with features that stop you in your tracks. broad noses, full lips, and unmistakably African-like profiles. Here's the catch: they date back to around 900 BC, millennia before Columbus, centuries before documented contact between Africa and the Americas. So how do we explain these faces? Were the Olmecs, often called Mesoamerica's mother culture, influenced by visitors from across the Atlantic? Or is there a deeper story about shared human expression that we've yet to unravel? The mystery only deepens when you consider how these heads were treated. Many were deliberately buried, some facing east, as if awaiting something or someone. Archaeologists found one head carefully interred with offerings of jade and obsidian, a ritual usually reserved for revered ancestors. Were these portraits of rulers, gods, or perhaps even foreign dignitaries? The Olmecs left no written records, only these silent sentinels, their expressions frozen in stone, daring us to guess their origins. Mainstream archaeology leans toward local creation, pointing to indigenous features in other Olmec art. But fringe theories persist, fueled by traces of cocaine and tobacco, plants native to the Americas, found in ancient Egyptian mummies. Could there have been fleeting, unrecorded voyages across the oceans, or does the resemblance hint at something more profound? That humanity's artistic language, our way of capturing the divine or the powerful, might transcend continents and epochs. What's undeniable is the Olmec's sophistication. Transporting these monoliths without wheels or pack animals required ingenuity, rolling them on logs, leveraging river routes, orchestrating feats of engineering that rival the pyramids. And then, after centuries of prominence, their civilization vanished, leaving behind these heads as their only manifesto, buried not by time but by human hands, as if to say, "Remember us, but don't disturb our silence." Now shift gears from stone to scalpels, because our next discovery doesn't just hint at lost connections, it reveals a medical breakthrough so advanced it wouldn't be replicated for nearly 2,000 years. Imagine a civilization performing brain surgery with tools so precise, patients survive to tell the tale. This isn't science fiction, it's the legacy of the Inca, etched into the skulls of their healed. The Roman dodecahedrons are history's most stubborn enigma, 12-sided bronze puzzles that defy explanation. Unearthed in lands once ruled by Rome, from Britain to Hungary, these palm-sized objects are impeccably crafted, each face a perfect pentagon with a circular hole of varying size. But here's the catch: not a single ancient text, inventory, or fresco so much as whispers their purpose. They're ghosts in the archaeological record, artifacts without a story. What makes them so tantalizing is their precision. The holes aren't random, they're calibrated, as if designed to measure something. But what? Theories spiral like vines. Some argue they were surveying tools, their holes gauging the angle of sunlight for agriculture or construction. Others insist they were knitting aids, their nubs guiding yarn into intricate patterns. Then there are the wilder guesses: celestial calculators, dice for sacred games, even devices to calibrate water pipes. But the most haunting possibility: they were ritual objects, their true meaning known only to initiates, their purpose deliberately obscured to protect sacred knowledge. Consider where they're found, often buried alone, as if hidden, or placed in graves like talismans. One was discovered nestled in a Roman-era money box, as if its owner couldn't bear to part with it. Another was tucked beneath the foundation of a villa, a silent guardian against misfortune. This wasn't just utilitarian craftsmanship, it was something deeply personal, maybe even mystical. And yet, the dodecahedrons resist closure. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or the Rosetta Stone, there's no key to unlock them. They're a reminder that some secrets aren't lost, they were never meant to be shared. Which raises a chilling question: If something as mundane as a bronze object can vanish from collective memory so completely, what else has history swallowed whole? Now shift gears entirely to an artifact so ancient it predates not just Rome but the dinosaurs themselves. Picture a time when life on Earth was nothing like we know it, and a tiny, unassuming object became the key to unlocking a world long gone. The London Hammer isn't just an oddity, it's a geological time traveler, found in 1936 by a couple hiking near London, Texas. This small iron hammer was encased in a chunk of Cretaceous rock, a layer of earth dating back over 100 million years. That's a problem. According to conventional history, humans capable of forging metal tools wouldn't appear for another 99 million years. So how did this hammer end up sealed inside ancient stone like some prehistoric message in a bottle? At first glance, the hammer looks unremarkable, a wooden handle with a rusted iron head, the kind you might find in any 19th century toolbox, but the rock surrounding it tells a different story. Geologists who examined the concretion confirmed its age, sparking debates that rage to this day. Skeptics argue the hammer must have been dropped or buried recently, its handle petrifying over decades rather than millennia. Yet the rock's mineralization suggests otherwise, with the hammer's metal showing a purity and composition unlike modern alloys. If it's a hoax, it's one crafted with impossible precision. Then there's the chilling implication. If this hammer is genuine, it means someone or something was forging tools during the age of dinosaurs. The idea upends not just archaeology but our entire understanding of evolution. Could an advanced civilization have risen and fallen long before recorded history? Or does the hammer point to a stranger possibility, like time travel or extraterrestrial intervention? What's undeniable is the hammer's eerie resilience. Buried for epochs, it survived continental shifts, asteroid impacts, and the rise and fall of species. Its very existence forces us to confront the gaps in our knowledge. How many other anachronistic artifacts lie hidden, waiting to rewrite the story we think we know? Now shift from land to sea, where another discovery defies the boundaries of history. Imagine a map so accurate, it charts coastlines no human could have seen because they were buried under miles of ice. The next artifact doesn't just challenge timelines, it redraws the map of human exploration itself. The Nebra Sky Disc isn't just an artifact, it's a window into the minds of people who saw the heavens not as distant lights but as a living map. Unearthed by treasure hunters in 1999 near Nebra, Germany, this unassuming bronze disc about the size of a dinner plate holds a celestial secret that rewrote history. Its surface shimmers with gold inlays depicting the sun, moon, and a cluster of stars we now recognize as the Pleiades. But here's what stops you cold. Flanking these symbols are two golden arcs, precisely calculated to mark the solstices, the turning points of the year. This wasn't decoration. It was a prehistoric calendar, a farmer's almanac, and possibly even a sacred compass rolled into one. What makes the disc so revolutionary is its age. Carbon dating places it at roughly 1600 BC, a time when Europe was thought to be a backwater of scattered tribes. Yet someone, or some group, had not only observed the sky with startling precision, but had translated that knowledge into portable form. The implications are staggering. This suggests organized astronomy, shared rituals, and a level of cooperation across regions we never imagined for the Bronze Age. Then there's the mystery of its burial. Found atop a hill, carefully placed beside swords and tools, the disc was clearly no ordinary object. Some believe it was a votive offering to the gods, hidden where earth and sky met. Others think it was a priestly tool, too powerful to leave in the open, but the most compelling clue comes from its scars. Analysis shows it was altered over centuries, stars added, arcs repositioned. as if the knowledge it held evolved with its keepers. This wasn't a static map, it was a living document, updated like a sacred Wikipedia for the cosmos. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared in the archaeological record, the tradition of making such discs vanished. No copies, no imitations. It's as if the knowledge required to create it was lost or deliberately suppressed. The Nebra Sky Disc forces us to confront a haunting question. How much wisdom from the ancient world slipped through our fingers because it was too precious or too dangerous to pass on? Now shift your gaze from the stars to the Earth specifically, to a tiny, grotesque figurine that shattered art historians' assumptions about what ancient cultures considered beautiful. Because our next discovery isn't just an object, it's a rebellion in clay, a middle finger to artistic conventions that lasted millennia. The Shroud of Turin isn't just a piece of fabric, it's a riddle woven in linen, a puzzle that has defied science, faith, and skepticism for centuries. This 14-foot-long cloth bears the ghostly imprint of a man, his wounds eerily matching the biblical account of Christ's crucifixion. Lacerations from scourging, a puncture in the side, even what appear to be nail marks through the wrists. But here's where the mystery grips you. No one can explain how the image got there. It's not paint, it's not dye. It's a superficial discoloration of the fibers, as if the cloth was somehow exposed to a burst of energy that left behind nothing but a shadow. The debates around the shroud are as intense as the image itself. In 1988, radiocarbon dating suggested it originated in the Middle Ages, around the 13th or 14th century, a blow to those who believed it was a genuine burial shroud. But then came the complications. Researchers pointed out that the sample tested might have been a medieval repair, not the original fabric. Others noted that the shroud's unique weaving pattern matches textiles from 1st century Jerusalem, a detail no medieval forger would have known. And then there's the pollen. Traces found on the cloth include species native to the Dead Sea region, plants that wouldn't have been familiar to a European artisan. But the real enigma is the image itself. Modern scientists have tried and failed to replicate it. UV lasers, chemical reactions, even medieval techniques like rubbing cloth with acid-treated bas-reliefs, none produce the shroud's precise, three-dimensional effect. The image encodes depth information like a photographic negative, with darker tones corresponding to the distances between the cloth and the body. How could someone centuries before photography achieve this? Unless, of course, they didn't. Perhaps the most haunting detail is the blood. Forensic analysis suggests the stains contain hemoglobin and bilirubin, compounds consistent with severe trauma. And the pattern, the flows match the gravitational pull you'd expect from a crucified body. If this is a forgery, it's the work of a genius with knowledge of anatomy, physics, and chemistry far beyond their time. Or maybe, just maybe, it's something else entirely, an artifact so out of place, it forces us to question not just history, but the boundaries of what we consider possible. Now shift from the enigmatic to the ingenious, because our next discovery doesn't just challenge history, it showcases an engineering marvel so advanced, it's as if the ancients left us a blueprint for the future. The Great Pyramid has guarded its secrets for over 4,000 years, but modern technology is finally peeling back its limestone layers, and what we're finding defies explanation. In 2017, a team using advanced muon tomography, a technique that essentially X-rays stone with cosmic rays, detected something startling, a hidden void above the Grand Gallery, stretching at least 30 meters long. That's the length of a Boeing 737 tucked inside the pyramid's heart, untouched since the age of the pharaohs. But here's the twist, this isn't some forgotten construction gap. The space is too precise, too deliberate, with a corridor-like structure that echoes the pyramid's known passages. So why was it sealed, and more importantly, what's inside? Some speculate it could be a hidden burial chamber, perhaps for Khufu himself, whose sarcophagus has never been found. Others suggest it might hold sacred artifacts or even architectural blueprints, an ancient how-to guide for building the impossible. But the most tantalizing theory, that this void is part of a larger, undiscovered network. Scans reveal another mysterious cavity near the pyramid's north face, along with strange thermal anomalies that hint at hollow spaces behind seemingly solid walls. It's as if the pyramid is a Russian nesting doll of secrets, each layer revealing another question. What's truly humbling is how these discoveries expose the limits of our knowledge. The Great Pyramid was built with mathematical precision, aligned to true north within a fraction of a degree, its dimensions encoding the Earth's circumference. Yet for all our satellites and supercomputers, we're still deciphering its floor plan. The ancient Egyptians didn't just build a tomb, they engineered a labyrinth of knowledge, hiding truths in plain sight. Maybe those voids were never meant to be found, or maybe they were designed as a challenge, a message across millennia. You think you understand us, look harder. Now shift from stone to legend, because our next artifact doesn't just hide in shadows. It blurs the line between myth and reality. Imagine a weapon so powerful, its mere description sounds like science fiction. A weapon that shouldn't exist, and yet the evidence suggests it did. The Ark of the Covenant isn't just a lost relic, it's a biblical mystery wrapped in fire, power, and divine warning. According to the Book of Exodus, this gold-covered chest wasn't merely a container for the Ten Commandments. It was a conduit for the voice of God himself, so sacred that touching it meant instant death. Priests carried it with poles to avoid direct contact, and legends claim it could part rivers, level mountains, and vaporize armies. Then, around 586 BC, it vanished when Babylon sacked Jerusalem. No trace, no record, just silence. But here's the chilling part: someone, somewhere, might have found it. And if the stories are true, they quickly realized some things are better left buried. Take the account of the Knights Templar. Medieval chronicles suggest they may have discovered the Ark beneath Solomon's temple during the Crusades, only to hide it again, this time in Europe. Why? Because the Ark wasn't just treasure, it was a weapon. The Bible describes it emitting a lethal glory that killed those who mishandled it, a force modern theorists speculate could have been radiation, electrical discharge, or something far stranger. Even today, Ethiopian Christians claim it rests in a chapel in Axum, guarded by a single monk who spends his life ensuring no one sees it. The catch: no outsiders are allowed to verify its existence, but the Ark's disappearance raises a darker question. What if it wasn't lost but taken? Ancient texts hint that certain artifacts, especially those tied to divine power, were deliberately removed from history to prevent catastrophe. Jewish tradition speaks of the Ark being hidden by the prophet Jeremiah before Babylon's invasion, sealed in a cave until the Messiah's return. Could it still be waiting, buried beneath Jerusalem's Temple Mount or deep in the desert? Or was it destroyed, its power too volatile to risk preserving? What's undeniable is the pattern. From the Ark to the Holy Grail, history is littered with sacred objects that vanish just as they're about to be found. Maybe it's coincidence, or maybe it's a warning that some knowledge isn't meant for mortal hands. Now, shift from biblical enigmas to an artifact that shouldn't exist at all. Because our next discovery doesn't just defy history, it defies physics, appearing centuries ahead of its time with a purpose no one can explain. The crystal skulls have long danced on the edge of myth and reality, objects so flawless, so hauntingly lifelike, that they seem to whisper secrets from another world. Carved from single blocks of clear or milky quartz, their surfaces polished to a supernatural sheen, These skulls first surfaced in the late 19th century, touted as relics of lost Mesoamerican civilizations. The most famous, the Mitchell-Hedges skull, was even said to have been found in a Mayan temple by an adventurer's daughter in 1924, its jawbone separate, moving with uncanny precision. But here's the twist: when scientists finally put these artifacts under the microscope, the truth was far less mystical. Microscopic analysis revealed tool marks consistent with 19th century jewelers' equipment, not ancient hand-carving techniques. The quartz itself, sourced as far away as Madagascar or Brazil, told a story of global trade, not pre-Columbian craftsmanship, yet the skull's legend refuses to die. Why? Because they tap into something deeper than facts are yearning for the inexplicable. Some claim the skulls emit strange energies, that they can heal or even project visions. Others insist they're remnants of Atlantis or gifts from extraterrestrials, their true origins scrubbed from history. The fascination isn't just about the objects themselves, but what they represent. The idea that ancient cultures possessed knowledge or technology far beyond what we've credited them with. It's the same allure that draws people to pyramids or megaliths, the suspicion that history's timeline might be missing a few crucial pages. But here's the irony: the real story of the crystal skulls is just as compelling as the myths. Their 19th century origins coincide with a boom in archaeological forgeries, fueled by European obsession with exotic artifacts. Yet even as hoaxes, they reveal a truth about human nature, our hunger to connect with the past, even if we have to invent it. And in a way, the skulls did become genuinely ancient, just not in the way their creators intended. Over a century later, they've earned their own mythology, proving that an object's power isn't just in its age, but in the stories we wrap around it. Now, shift from fabricated mysteries to a discovery that rewrites the map of ancient commerce, because our next artifact doesn't just hint at lost civilizations. It charts their connections, stretching across continents and centuries in a way that defies everything we thought we knew about early trade. The Uluburun Shipwreck isn't just a sunken ship. It's a time capsule of a world far more connected than we ever imagined. When divers first spotted its remains off the coast of Turkey in 1982, they had no idea they were staring at a Bronze Age supermarket, a floating bazaar carrying goods from at least 7 different civilizations. Imagine a single vessel packed with 10 tons of copper ingots from Cyprus, glass beads from Mesopotamia, ebony from Egypt, and amber from the Baltic, objects that traveled thousands of miles across land and sea 3,000 years before FedEx. This wasn't just trade, it was globalization in its infancy. But here's what's truly staggering: the ship's cargo didn't just include raw materials. Among the wreckage, archaeologists found delicate ivory cosmetics boxes, gold jewelry, and even a golden scarab inscribed with the name of Nefertiti, the legendary Egyptian queen. These weren't bulk commodities, they were luxury items, proof that elite taste spanned continents long before Marco Polo or the Silk Road. And then there's the weaponry. Bronze swords from Mycenae, daggers with lapis lazuli handles from Afghanistan, each artifact a silent witness to an era when warriors, merchants, and artisans moved in a world without borders. The real mystery, though, lies in the ship's final moments. Analysis of the wreck suggests it sank suddenly, perhaps in a storm, its cargo perfectly preserved as if frozen in time. But there's an eerie absence of human remains. No skeletons, no personal effects beyond a single wooden diptych, an ancient notebook that might have held the ship's manifest, its wax long since melted away by the sea. Was the crew rescued, or did the sea claim them, leaving only their goods behind as a message to the future? What the Uluburun wreck forces us to confront is scale. We think of ancient people as isolated, their worlds small and local. But this ship's cargo tells a different story, one of tin from Cornwall reaching the workshops of Syria, of Egyptian gold adorning Aegean nobles. The Bronze Age wasn't just a period, it was a network humming with ships like this one, carrying ideas as surely as they carried amber and ivory. And if one ship could hold so many secrets, how many others still lie beneath the waves, their stories waiting to rewrite history? Now, shift from the bustling trade routes of the Mediterranean to something far darker, an artifact not of commerce but of devotion. Because our next discovery doesn't just hint at forgotten connections, it whispers of rituals so primal they defy modern understanding. Göbekli Tepe doesn't just predate history, it defies it. Nestled in the rolling hills of southeastern Turkey, this sprawling complex of massive limestone pillars isn't just old, it's impossibly ancient, carbon dated to around 9600 BC. It's a staggering 6,000 years older than Stonehenge, built millennia before the wheel or agriculture supposedly existed. But here's what really shatters conventional wisdom: these aren't crude monoliths. Each pillar is a masterpiece, carved with intricate animal reliefs: snakes, foxes, scorpions so precise they seem to writhe in the flickering torchlight. This wasn't the work of hunter-gatherers stumbling toward civilization. It was the product of a society already thriving, with the manpower, artistry, and vision to erect what might be the world's first temple. Then comes the real enigma. After centuries of use, the people of Göbekli Tepe did something unthinkable. They buried their sacred site deliberately. Methodically, thousands of tons of earth were hauled to seal the pillars, as if hiding them from the future. Why? Some scholars believe it was a ritual act, a way to retire the sacred space without violating it. Others suspect darker motives, perhaps a cataclysm or a cultural shift so profound the builders wanted to erase their past. But the most chilling theory: they knew something. The carvings aren't just art, they're a warning. One pillar depicts a headless man surrounded by vultures, a scene eerily reminiscent of ancient sky burials. Another shows a swarm of scorpions, symbols of death in Mesopotamian lore. Was this a monument to an apocalypse they foresaw, or one they'd already survived? What's undeniable is the ripple effect of this discovery. Göbekli Tepe forces us to rewrite the origin story of civilization. Agriculture, long thought to precede monumental architecture, may have emerged because of sites like this to feed the workers carving these pillars. The very timeline of human progress crumbles under the weight of these stones. And if a site this sophisticated existed 12,000 years ago, what else lies buried beneath our feet, waiting to upend history once more? Now, pivot from buried temples to an object that shouldn't exist: a tiny figurine, unearthed in the Americas, with features that point unmistakably to a land its creators supposedly never knew. The next discovery doesn't just challenge timelines, it bridges continents, suggesting connections that historians swore were impossible. The Saqqara bird doesn't just sit in a museum case, it soars through history, daring us to reconsider what ancient civilizations truly knew. Discovered in 1898 in a tomb near the pyramids, this small wooden figurine looks at first glance like a stylized falcon, but tilt your head and the resemblance shifts. The wings aren't just decorative, they're angled, streamlined with a curvature that mirrors the aerofoil design of modern aircraft wings. The tail, it's vertical like a rudder. To the untrained eye, it's art. To an aeronautical engineer, it's a blueprint. The debate ignited in the 1960s when a physician and amateur Egyptologist, Kolul Messiha, noticed something unsettling. This wasn't just a bird. It lacked the legs and feather details found in other avian carvings. Instead, its proportions matched those of a monoplane glider. wind tunnel tests later revealed something astonishing. With a slight adjustment to the tail's angle, the Saqqara bird could theoretically achieve stable, short-distance flight. Not bad for an object carved over 2,000 years before the Wright brothers, but here's where the mystery deepens. If the Egyptians understood aerodynamics, where's the evidence? No papyrus diagrams, no temple murals of flying machines, just this silent, solitary artifact. Some scholars argue it's a coincidence, that the shape is purely symbolic, perhaps a child's toy or a ritual object. Others point to the legend of Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, who was said to possess a winged disc capable of soaring across the heavens. Could this be a physical echo of that myth? Or something more? The real enigma isn't whether the Saqqara bird could fly, it's why such knowledge, if it existed, vanished so completely. Ancient cultures guarded secrets fiercely. The Library of Alexandria burned, taking countless scrolls with it. Could this little wooden model be a fragment of a lost science, a whisper of experimentation that never made it into the official record? Now shift from flight to another kind of hidden language, one etched not in wood but in stone, because our next discovery doesn't just hint at suppressed knowledge, it hides it in plain sight, waiting centuries for someone to read between the lines. The Nebra stones might sound like something ripped from a sci-fi novel, tiny stone discs, etched with spiral grooves of microscopic hieroglyphs, telling a tale so bizarre it defies belief. According to the legend, these artifacts were discovered in 1938 by a Chinese archaeologist in a remote mountain cave near the Tibetan border. The carvings, when allegedly translated, spoke of an ancient alien spacecraft crashing into the mountains. Its survivors, the Nebra people, stranded on Earth 12,000 years ago. The story spirals further. The discs were said to contain high levels of cobalt and other metals, their grooves vibrating at frequencies that suggested some kind of data storage. A perfect relic for ancient astronaut theorists, right? But here's where skepticism crashes the party. No credible academic institution has ever verified the stone's existence. The original archaeologist's name lost to time, the discs themselves nowhere to be found in museum collections. Even the supposed translations published in a dubious Russian publication read more like pulp fiction than historical record. Yet, like all great myths, the Nebra stones refuse to die. Documentaries feature them, books dissect them, and forums debate them. Why? Because they tap into our deepest fascinations, the idea that we're not alone, that history as we know it is incomplete, and that somewhere, buried in a cave or a forgotten tomb, lies proof of contact with something beyond our world. The stones also expose how easily archaeology can blur into legend. Without physical evidence, they exist in a limbo between hoax and holy grail. But their endurance raises a compelling question. Even if the discs themselves are fabrications, could they be distorting a kernel of truth? Ancient cultures worldwide describe sky gods or star people, from the Dogon tribe's celestial knowledge to the Sanskrit Vimanas. The Nebra stones might be fake, but the longing they represent, to find our place in a cosmos far older and stranger than we imagine, is undeniably real. Now shift from interstellar mysteries to earthly ones specifically, to an object that blurs the line between science and sorcery. Our next artifact doesn't hint at aliens, but at something equally elusive, the secret to eternal life. Hidden in the shadows of medieval laboratories, it's tied to the most infamous quest of all, the Philosopher's Stone. The Emerald Tablet doesn't just whisper secrets, it speaks in riddles that have haunted alchemists for over 1,000 years. This slender slab, said to be carved from pure emerald, carries a single cryptic inscription. As above, so below, 13 short lines, yet they've spawned centuries of obsession, from medieval laboratories to modern chemistry textbooks. Legend claims it was written by Hermes Trismegistus, a mythical figure blending the Egyptian god Thoth with the Greek Hermes, a messenger between gods and mortals. But here's the twist: no physical tablet has ever been found. The text survives only through copies, passed hand to hand like forbidden knowledge, each generation adding its own layer of interpretation. What makes the Emerald Tablet so tantalizing isn't just its age, it's the sheer audacity of its claims. The text promises the keys to transmutation, the power to turn base metals into gold, even the secret to eternal life. To Renaissance alchemists like Isaac Newton, who spent years deciphering its verses, it wasn't mere metaphor. They believed the tablet held literal instructions, a coded recipe for the philosopher's stone. Modern scholars, though, see something subtler. The phrase, "as above, so below," mirrors the Hermetic principle of correspondence, the idea that the microcosm reflects the macrocosm, that the human body and the cosmos are mirrors of one another. This wasn't just alchemy, it was early science, a framework for understanding the interconnectedness of all things. Yet the tablet's true power lies in its ambiguity. Its verses are so open-ended that they've been claimed by everyone from medieval mystics to quantum physicists. Some argue it describes the chemical process of creating nitric acid, a compound essential for dissolving metals. Others see parallels to the human nervous system or even the structure of DNA. And then there's the chilling possibility that the tablet was meant to be misunderstood, that its vagueness was a filter, ensuring only the worthy could grasp its truths. After all, knowledge this potent in the wrong hands could topple empires. Perhaps the most fascinating detail is where the tablet's trail leads next. Arabic manuscripts from the 8th century claim it was discovered in the hands of a mummy, clutched in the grip of a long-dead sage. Whether myth or fact, the image lingers, wisdom so dangerous it had to be buried with its keeper. And that raises a question still relevant today: are some discoveries better left hidden? Now, shift from the mystical to the medical, where our next artifact doesn't just hint at ancient secrets, it proves them with surgical precision. Imagine a civilization so advanced they could drill into the human skull and let the patient live to tell the tale. The Edwin Smith Papyrus isn't just a medical text, it's a surgical revolution carved in hieroglyphs. Dating back to 1600 BC, but likely copied from even older sources, this ancient scroll is the world's first known manual for treating trauma, with 48 cases meticulously detailed, from cracked skulls to spinal injuries. What's staggering isn't just its age, but its precision. The papyrus doesn't just describe wounds, it classifies them into 3 categories: an ailment I will treat, an ailment I will fight, and an ailment not to be treated. This isn't guesswork, it's triage, a system eerily similar to modern emergency medicine. But here's the twist: the papyrus wasn't meant for public eyes. Written in a specialized, almost coded language, it was likely reserved for elite physicians, perhaps even temple priests. The text avoids magical incantations, focusing purely on anatomy and technique, a rarity in an era when medicine and mysticism were intertwined. This suggests a hidden tradition of empirical science, passed down secretly among initiates. Why? Because knowledge this advanced was power. A physician who could set a dislocated jaw or suture a scalp wound wasn't just a healer. They were a strategist, keeping soldiers and laborers alive in a world where survival meant economic and military strength. Then there's the mystery of its preservation. The papyrus survived not in a royal library, but buried in a tomb, possibly hidden to protect it from looters or rivals. Even more telling, the techniques it describes, like using honey as an antibacterial dressing or linen bandages to stabilize fractures, vanish from later medical texts for centuries. Was this knowledge suppressed or simply lost in the chaos of wars and dynastic collapses? Either way, the papyrus forces us to confront a chilling reality. Civilizations don't just progress linearly. They forget, they regress, and sometimes the most advanced wisdom of an era gets buried, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Now, shift from scalpels to symbols, because our next discovery doesn't just cross cultural boundaries, it erases them entirely. A tiny figurine, unearthed in the Americas, bears features so unmistakably foreign, it rewrites the story of ancient contact. The Tarim Mummies shouldn't exist, not here, not like this. Stretched across the scorching sands of China's Taklamakan Desert, these perfectly preserved corpses lie frozen in time, their features unmistakably Caucasian, high cheekbones, long noses, and even reddish-brown hair still clinging to their skulls. Carbon dated to between 1800 and 4,000 years ago, they're a slap in the face to conventional history. How did people with European ancestry end up buried in the heart of Asia, thousands of miles from their genetic cousins, wrapped in woolen cloaks and felt boots as if they'd stepped straight out of the Bronze Age steppes? The mystery only deepens when you see how they were laid to rest. Some mummies rest in boat-shaped coffins, a burial practice never seen in ancient China but eerily similar to Norse traditions. Others wear tall, conical hats that mirror those of Siberian shamans or Celtic druids. And then there's the beauty of Lulan, her delicate features so intact you can still see the henna in her hair, her woven goatskin shoes stitched with a precision that suggests she wasn't just a wanderer, she belonged here. But to what? No records mention these people, no carvings depict their arrival. They're ghosts in the archaeological record, a thriving culture that vanished without leaving a trace in the history books. What's truly unsettling is where they chose to settle. The Taklamakan isn't just remote, it's one of the most inhospitable places on Earth, a desert whose name translates to place of no return. Yet these mummies were buried with extravagant care, surrounded by offerings of ephedra, a plant used in rituals across Eurasia. Were they fleeing something, or were they drawn here to this wasteland for a purpose we've yet to uncover? The prevailing theory suggests they were part of the Tocharian people, a lost Indo-European group who somehow threaded their way along the Silk Road before it even existed. Linguistic clues support this. Ancient manuscripts found in the region contain words strikingly similar to Celtic and Germanic tongues. But if they were traders, where are the goods? If they were conquerors, where are the forts? The Tarim Mummies refuse to fit neatly into any box. Perhaps the most haunting detail is their preservation. The desert's dry air and salty soil acted like a time capsule, not just saving their bodies but their DNA genetic blueprints that reveal even more surprises. Some mummies carry markers linked to modern-day Switzerland, others to the Russian plains. This wasn't a single migration but a mosaic of journeys, a slow-motion convergence of cultures in the most unlikely place imaginable. And then, just as suddenly as they appeared, they're gone. By the time the Han Dynasty rose to power, the Tarim Basin's Caucasian inhabitants had vanished, assimilated or displaced, their legacy erased until the desert reluctantly gave them back. These mummies weren't meant to be found. Their burial was final, their secrets sealed under layers of sand and time. Yet here they are, staring at us across the millennia, their very existence rewriting the map of human movement. Which leaves us with one final question. If a single desert could hide an entire chapter of history, what else lies buried, waiting to shake the foundations of what we think we know? Some discoveries don't just answer questions, they tear up the textbook and force us to start over. And sometimes the most profound truths come from the places we least expect. From forgotten technologies to suppressed knowledge, These 22 objects shatter the illusion that history is a tidy, linear narrative. Each artifact we've uncovered today is more than just a relic. It's a crack in the foundation of what we think we know. The Antikythera Mechanism forces us to question the timeline of human innovation. The Dead Sea Scrolls whisper of beliefs too radical to survive. The Olmec heads stare back at us with features that defy conventional migration theories. These aren't just anomalies, they're proof that the past is a puzzle with half the pieces still missing. What's truly chilling isn't just what these objects reveal, it's how many were deliberately hidden. The Phaistos Disc buried beneath temple floors, the Baghdad Battery sealed away for millennia, the Great Pyramid's hidden chambers, their entrances smoothed over like secrets too dangerous to share. Someone went to great lengths to ensure these truths stayed lost. Why were they protecting sacred knowledge or shielding future generations from something we still don't understand? The most humbling realization: for every artifact we've recovered, countless others likely turned to dust. Imagine the libraries that burned, the temples that crumbled, the technologies that vanished because no one thought to write them down. The Voynich Manuscript might be the only survivor of an entire tradition of encrypted knowledge. The Saqqara bird could be a lone echo of ancient experiments with flight. These objects aren't just rare, they're miracles of survival. Yet the greatest mystery isn't behind us, it's ahead. New technologies like LiDAR and muon tomography are revealing hidden cities beneath jungles and voids within pyramids. Every year, farmers' plows strike strange metals, and desert winds expose tombs no one knew existed. The next world-changing artifact could be lying in a museum basement, mislabeled as a curio, or waiting in some uncharted cave. History isn't static, it's a conversation, and we've only just begun to listen. So tell us which of these discoveries reshaped your understanding of the past. Were you stunned by the precision of the Nebra Sky Disc, or unsettled by the Tarim Mummies' untold journey? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you're hungry for more mysteries, hit that subscribe button. Because this isn't the end of the story, it's barely the beginning.